I think I'm live. Can you hear me? Hello, hello, hello. Hey, co-host. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Or say, can you hear me? Alright. I see my bubble moving. So, we are going to the last two episodes of season 4 today. So it's episode 21 and 22. And um sorry, I do apologize. To the last two episodes of season 4, episode 21 and 22. This is when I'm having some internet issues. I don't know if it's the internet or if it's the weather outside, so I do apologize. Co-host, can you hear me okay? Okay, so we're gonna do 22, season 4. This is where we say goodbye to Richard and we say goodbye to Kenny and Ginger. And again, this is also has Joanna Pettit starring, with Rest in Peace. My thoughts and prayers go out to her and her family and friends that we just lost her in July. And so, can you so we're gonna I'm gonna have the We're Not Done Yet podcast linked down below. And then also, as you all know, Miss donnamills did get an OnlyFans account, so please go check that out. And you can follow her, whatever. You can do that. Um, Don't forget to do the YouTube things, like, share, subscribe, comment in the live chat, comment down below, and turn your bell notifications on. Again, I'm not doing this for views, I'm doing this to kind of talk about National Landing, give a different perspective, not just recap, but analyze it in a different way, talk about it, and go on from there. And then, again, these episodes are kind of hard to find some scenes to play, but I will do my best to kind of be YouTube friendly with the scenes that I do play. So yeah, so we will go ahead and just get started with season 4, episode 21, and it's called The Burden of Proof. And this is kind of an interesting episode. So we kind of start out with the two characters in the beginning, and then we end with the two characters at the end. And you'll see why as I discuss this episode. So we open with Val at the police. Oh no, I'm sorry, that's the next episode. I apologize, that's the next episode. My bad. So we open up with Val at the police station talking with Janet Green. So as you know, the previous episode, Val was telling Mack and Karen and Louie about what happened at Ciji's apartment between her and Ciji. And then Mack told her not to go down to the police station to talk to them. However, do not go without a lawyer. Well, Val didn't listen. She went anyways, and she went without a lawyer. So she's now down there talking with Janet Green and her partner, and she tries to tell them what happened, and that when she heard what happened to Ciji, she felt guilty enough to come in and tell them what she knew about when she saw her the night before, or that night. However, Janet Green's partner was trying to get Gary off because she's so in love with him, and the fact that, she's protecting him while Val thinks that Gary was protecting her. In reality, Gary did not know anything about Ciji being pregnant, nor about Val being there that night. So Val didn't know this, and Gary didn't know about Val. And then I kind of put, how would anyone know that Val was there that night at Ciji if no one saw her there, So that's just my thing. So Baines and her partner step out, and then she tells her partner to stop harassing Val about it or giving her a hard time, and tells him that she's trying to get to the bottom of it. And she says that something's not right, like something is not clicking with this case. Like it's almost like she doesn't think that they have the right guy. Richard is pulling his funds from, so the next we see that Richard is on the phone, and he's pulling his funds from the insurance policy and has them move to check out to Laura because he is making plans to leave town. Karen, Mack, and Louie show up at the police station. Mack makes them call Janet, and she comes out to talk to them. Janet says that she's questioning Val right now and no one can see her. Mack and Janet fight, Louie stays, and Mack and Karen leave. Everyone is upset about the situation. Laura is planting flowers that she had picked up at the store. Laura asked Richard how it went at the restaurant the night before. And he said it was good and that they had to turn people away. However, the kitchen was closed. Laura gives Richard some advice about how to build up customers and keep, maybe have more music coming in or whatever, and then just to kind of get more clientele coming in. And Richard asked her if she can handle it, and she said that she does not want to handle it because it's not her restaurant. So basically, I think because Abby has money in it, she doesn't want anything to do with it. Next we see that Gary and Casey Abby and Casey are talking to Gary about Abby getting power of attorney. Abby asked to call his mother, and She says no, and then he signs over the power of attorney to Abby. Gary gets up and walks away. Abby goes to talk to Joanna Gaines, and Millie notices her and starts to yell at Abby about what is happening with Val and Gary, and it gets pretty heated, and Millie has to be pulled away from Abby because she's just so upset that she don't know what's going to happen. Janet comes out to bring Abby in to talk to her, and Janet tells Abby that Val confessed, and Abby literally laughs in her face like, this is so bad. Like, come on. Um, Gary, Gary's lawyer tells Abby to stop talking, and Abby tells Janet that you cannot trust anything that Val says. Janet also asks about Gary's behavior when he is drunk. Casey wants all charges dropped, however, Janet says it is too soon for that. Next we see that Mack and Karen come home from the police station and sees Richard cleaning out the drain pipe. And Karen asks about someone getting an attorney who is at the police station. And Richard asks who needs an attorney, and Karen walks away. Mack tells Karen to trust him. Next we see Diana and Chip leave, and Karen says that she can't stand that schlub. And then Karen does ask Richard how Laura is doing, and Richard says that Laura could use a friend right now. And again, he's planning to leave, but no one knows that he's planning to leave. Next, Kenny and Ginger are walking on the beach and talking about Gary and about him going to talk to Gary about working things out, and the fact that Gary might need a friend. And Kenny is starting to see the light a little bit, so he's kind of coming out of his funk about being depressed, mad, angry. Because honestly, if you hold on to that anger, it's just gonna fester inside of you until it rises. So, and wants to kind of make amends, so to speak, to people around him. Kenny and Ginger then talk about Jeff, and she encourages him to call him back to talk about what ideas he may have. Janet comes out and tells Lily Mae to go home because Val is being held for further questioning, and she is being booked, and Lily Mae sees this happening. Val is scared. Casey and Abby are at the beach house and still talking about Val's confession. And Casey says, what if Val did it? Abby thinks that this is a plot from Val to get Gary back. Because she said that if I was going to do anything to anyone, it would have been her, not Ciji. Janet got a court order for Gary to go to the police station and then walk to where she saw Ciji. Then they go to the apartment where Val was trying to remember what happened. Gary loses it. Gary starts yelling, and they kind of have a collision, so to speak. The attorney comes out to talk to Lily Mae about Val, and that they are holding her over until the next day. So again, they're holding her over until the next day, so this is another night. And then the attorney tells her to go home, and that there is nothing she can do here at the station, and if Val does need her and she calls, then and she's not at home, then what is she going to be able to do? So Lily Mae does go home finally. Kenny goes to talk to Richard about what is going on within the neighborhood, and they kind of laugh about it. Kenny is in a good mood now, and he asks if they can come in and celebrate Ginger's birthday at the restaurant on Saturday, and he says sure. And then as he's fixing the garage door, Richard closes the door on Kenny, and he doesn't know that he got shut out, which I think is kind of telling as to what's going to happen. Gary does not want Val to stay in jail and confess, and Gary gets up and walks out as he's talking to Casey and Abby. Chip and Lily Mae are talking as they're eating dinner, and Lily Mae tells Chip, finally, that she wants him to go upstairs and pack his bags and leave the house. Lily Mae does not want him there anymore. Luna is really upset and is finally assuming Chip for who he really is. And then I said, good for Luna. Kenny does go to see Gary, and at first it starts out rough, but then they work things out, and Kenny says that if there's anything he can do for him, and Gary does say thank you, they work it out, and they're friends again. So, oh, Karen and Mack are talking in the kitchen about who could have hurt Ciji, and they go through the whole neighborhood and all their friends, and then Karen goes, you forgot Lily, which is rather ironic. And then he kind of goes to the list because I kind of said that first. So he said Richard has a motive because he blames Ciji for his marriage breaking up, Abby because of Ciji and the pregnancy, Kenny and Ginger about the singing and the record contract. And then that's when Karen says, you forgot about Lily May. And then he goes into Chip and Diana, and then Karen says that it's not funny anymore. Like, it's going past being funny. Karen wants to go see Val now and asks Matt to go down there. And somehow he gets her in to see Val. And then they warn that charges will not be brought against Val. Val tells Karen that she did see Gary at Susan's apartment when they were going through what happened that night, and Gary tried to protect her, and that Gary still loves her. Mack and Janet are talking about Val, and she has nothing against Val to hold her over, and says that they actually have a case against Gary, but it's a very weak case. Abby and Olivia are talking about, so they're at the beach house, talking about Gary, and Abby tells her to stick out her tongue at the other kids when they're talking about it. Abby does tell her that Gary does need some help and that he is currently getting the help he needs right now. So she's saying that because Olivia is asking if Gary's in jail, but Abby's kind of lying to her a little bit, and I think kind of protecting her and saying no, he's just getting the help that he needs right now. Which I think is kind of smart. However, I think that her friends are seeing all the newspapers and stuff like that. Next we see that Jason is working on a competition for his helps him, and then they talk about how Richard taught him how to swim and how that was the best summer that he had with his family. Richard is still planning on leaving. And Jason loves his dad to pieces, and you can tell. Jason asked if he could use some of the pictures in the photo album, and she said yes. Karen and Mack do bring Val home, and Lily is happy. Karen and Mack go home, and they are both frightened about what can happen. Abby calls michelelee in Dallas, and is making it seem that what is going on is a lot less worse than what it really is at the time, and tells her not to come to town. So basically, she's telling her that she has it all under control. Next, this is the very last scene. Next, we see that Richard is getting ready to Daniel with Laura, and he moves to him and stares and takes a picture of the family, and then he officially leaves the cul-de-sac, never to be heard from again until season 9. Dun dun dun. And then as he is leaving, Richard gets out of his car and looks back at the cul-de-sac to say goodbye. However, I will say this, that even though Richard left the cul-de-sac, he was still writing episodes. The actor or the person was still writing episodes for Mass Landing, which I think is really good. So, again, this is very Gary heavy. This is very about, people trying to figure out what really happened. We see Val end up in jail, and however, she's not held over on any charges, and she's let go. Again, we see the legality versus the morality with Karen and Mack, where Mack is like, I'm federal, I can't get you into see Val. No one gets into see Val, and then somehow he gets her into see Val. So maybe he talks to Janet and then they work something out. I don't know. So, um, let's see. So Mack is still using his power a little bit, and then you see that they kind of go through the people that could harm Ciji, and again, Karen is kind of scared about what's going on, because I think in her thought, like in her gut, I think she knows who it could have been. However, she hasn't really said it out loud to anybody, and she hasn't really said it to Mack. Co-host, can you hear me? Hold on. Okay. Could I be going through this? If you can't hear me. Um, so yeah. So there's that, and then again, we see Ginger and Kenny start to kind of work out their issues with Joe Benson and Gary, and kind of starting to tie up that little story. And I think it's really sweet that before Kenny left, like he went and talked to Gary about, you know, and make up with him. And then he also kind of went around a little bit to the cul-de-sac to make up with Richard and to kind of get out of his funk. I think it is really sweet that Richard, even though Richard is making plans to leave, that he's fixing things up at the house for more, like the dream pipe, the garage door, things like that. So I think that that's really sweet. And I think again here we see a different level of Abby. Like we see that right now she's not trying to get Gary's money. She's just trying to um do what's best for Gary at this time. And she is right. He does need to spend some time in jail and then we kind of dry out a little bit more and become a little bit more uh come a little bit more because it does take some time and then you get involved in some programs because I'm not sure. I don't know what county jails are like, but I do know that since this was set in California and it sounds like it was LA, they do have a great, well now, I don't know about then, but they do have a great mental health facility within the jail system and all that good stuff because I know that Nick Reiner went to that after he got arrested for what he did. And I'm not going to even say allegedly because I honestly, he did it. In my opinion. That's in my opinion. Um, so yeah. Um, and then again, I see the legality versus morality. And the fact that Louis May's heart was broken with Val going to the police station and being held over for bail, for questioning, not bail, but for questioning, and the fact that she couldn't help her when she needed it. Hold on, I'm gonna mute myself real quick. Hold on, 1 second. I just wanted to make sure that I could hear myself because I think that um I was having some issues there with my mic in the beginning. And then again, we see Val wanting to protect Gary, and I think in a way Gary wanted to protect Val, and I think that he's kind of playing the martyr. Like, he's kind of like, I am guilty, and he doesn't know what happened. And, we'll learn in this next episode that Val only told him certain things that happened when he's drunk, and so therefore he'll learn a little bit more about that. And again, you can tell that Abby really does love Gary, but again, I think she loves the money more. I think he really loves Val, in my opinion. That's just me. Um, Okay, cool. So, let me see if there's anything. So, co-host. Oh, okay. So, do you have a video too? So, okay, maybe it's just the internet. Maybe the internet is just interneting today. I'm Luigi Baker. Go check out EDG. She always has technical difficulties as well. So it's not just me. Okay then. Um. So did you hear anything about this episode, co-host? I don't know, like when you got had. Do I need to go over it again? Okay, let me go to season 4. Okay. I was trying to see if I have some scenes I can play from here. Oh, this is kind of a fun scene. Alright. Okay. And again, this is in accordance with YouTube service policy. Maybe if you missed it, co-host, maybe some of these things will help you figure out what episode this is. And again, this is in accordance with YouTube service policy. This is when Karen and Matt come home the first time from the station.
I should have stayed with her, Mack. Mack.
Look, accusing Janet Baines of police brutality is no way to help Val.
Well, hi, Mom. Oh, hi.
Hi, Mack. Hi, Karen.
I can't stand that schlub.
So in case you can't hear us, she said, I can't stand that schlub. So she's basically trying to talk like Mac, which I think is hilarious. Again, this is in accordance with YouTube service policy.
What are you going to do? I mean, what are you going to do?
I'm gonna make some calls.
To whom?
Some people.
Mack, what are you going to do?
Trust me. Karen, trust me.
So he tells Karen to trust him, which is kind of funny. Again, this is in accordance with YouTube service policy. I think that's where I got confused when I did the recap, because I kind of confused the order of the scenes, so I do apologize. Again, this is in accordance with YouTube service policy.
Question.
Yeah.
If someone waives the right to an attorney, can they still be forced to have one anyway?
You mean in a trial?
No, I mean if they're being held for questioning.
Well, you can't force anyone to accept counsel. But if an attorney shows up and that person wants to see the attorney, the police wouldn't try to prevent it. You see, if they did, all of the testimony would be inadmissible. Who need...
So I think this is kind of ironic, because now that I'm thinking about it, in season 2, when Sid had his issues, the same kind of thing happened with Richard, where she went over to talk to Richard about Sid's issue, and it was in the same kind of scene. So I think that's kind of ironic, but kind of interesting. So it's kind of like a full circle moment almost, you know, like they were just trying to bring it back to season 2, I think it was, where Sid needed an attorney. I never thought about that until just now. What do you think? And again, this is going to future series policy.
The lawyer.
Don't tell me you're finally fixing the drain pipe.
Yeah, well, it's rusted through at least. Look.
You know, I can see that. It's been like that forever. Every time it rains, Laura complains about the drip, drip, drip. What made you decide to fix it? Tired of the drip, drip, drip?
Tired of hearing her complain.
Hey, Richard. How is she?
Better.
So again, I think this where I think that Karen and Laura's friendship was kind of starting to fade out before this, but in the next episode, it's kind of going to start to unravel a little bit more. And like she says here, she was kind of keeping her distance because of the friendship that she had with Ciji. So it's almost like maybe, I don't know. It's almost like when Karen got remarried to Mack, she just focused on Mack, Eric, Michael, Diana, and Val, and not necessarily like Laura. It kind of seems that way. I don't know. Like, they didn't really have a lot of scenes together. And after she got married to Mack. But Karen and Richard did, but not necessarily Karen and Laura. I never thought about that. So, that's kind of interesting. Let me know your thoughts on that. Again, this is according to future series policy.
Well, I've kept my distance. I figured you want to be alone for a while.
Yeah, well, I think she's past that. I think she could use a friend.
Aren't you a friend?
I'm her husband.
Hey, you guys free for dinner on Saturday?
Saturday?
Yeah, bring Daniel. Michael teach him how to play Pac-Man.
Sounds great.
Good. I'll see you Saturday.
Karen?
And again, with the video games, this kind of came out in the 80s with the video games. Interesting. The new age of technology. And again, this is going to future. Hold on. Kind of anyway, I'm just trying to go back on the brain. Again, this is going to future series policy.
What is it?
How do you like being married again?
I love it. Hey, you bring the wine.
When she said I love it, I think that was a little bit of Michelle coming out instead of Karen. So, just in certain ways that she talks, I can kind of tell where she goes in and out of Karen and Michelle. And I think right there, that was a little bit of Michelle coming out. Oh, good. Okay. I want to see if there's another scene that I can play. You know what? I'm not doing monetized, so here we go. Again, because this is a cute scene between Karen and Mack. Again, this is according to the future series policy.
Oh, shoot.
Thanks.
Oh, that's the end of when Kenny and Jerry talk at the station. Again, this is according to future series policy.
Oh, sure, somebody killed Ciji, but not necessarily our friends, our neighbors. We don't know.
So they always have like the best conversations either in the kitchen or in the bedroom, which I think is hilarious. And so they're just kind of, again, the legality versus the morality here. And I love the fact that Mack feels comfortable enough to talk to her about things. And again, like I said yesterday, I don't think if Sid was continued on the show, I don't think that the show would have lasted as long as it did. That's just my opinion. I like Sid and Karen, but I think that they would have just ran out of stories to tell. Again, this is according to future series policy.
Anything about Ciji's past anyway. After all, you know I'm
It
not.
could have been any one of your neighbors or your friends. It could have been Richard. Why don't we just have a salad?
Richard.
Sure. As far as he's concerned, Ciji ruined his marriage and his restaurant. Who's to say that?
again, no, he's talking about going through the different possibilities, and so his very first thought is Richard because of the marriage and the restaurant ruining both of them for him. Again, this is according to service policy.
And he didn't kill Ciji in a fit of jealous rage.
Oh, Mac, don't be ridiculous.
Ridiculous? He held his wife at gunpoint last year, didn't he? You know, I've gained 10
He
pounds.
was having a nervous breakdown. He wasn't himself. You know, he didn't
I
hurt
haven't
anybody.
exercised. I haven't played racquetball.
He didn't hurt anybody.
All right. How about Abby? If anyone has a motive, Abby has one. She chased around after Garrett the last 2 years.
So again, this is kind of ironic because he's running down with the very first two people that he says are like two of his number two suspects, with Richard being number one and Abby being number two. However, I don't think that, like Kim said, I don't think Abby would have done that. In my opinion, I don't think she can kill, that she can harm anyone physically. Again, this is in Constitution Service Policy.
And his money. And all of a sudden, this girl shows up and says, I'm pregnant with your child. Now, wouldn't she want her out of the way?
Abby's too smart to kill. She'd be afraid of getting caught.
Ah, like Kenny and Ginger. Huh? Kenny was furious that Ciji didn't stick behind him when the partnership between him and Gary broke up. Maybe he felt that but he couldn't be the genius behind Ciji. Nobody.
Kenny.
Or Ginger.
Oh,
She begged her
Mac.
husband for years to take her seriously as a singer. All he could hear her see was Ciji. So, Ginger aces Ciji and she gets a break. And I heard Munson talking to her the night she sang. He was promising her the moon.
Mac,
What?
you forgot Lily May.
Okay. All right, I'm not a neighbor now, okay? I'm some cop investigating the scene. Big case. What about Lily May? How about Chip, man?
So again, he's just kind of going, now he says Chip. So Chip would have been my number one suspect from the very beginning. But that's just me. I don't know about y'all. But yeah, he would have been my number one suspect. I don't know. Again, this is in Constitution Service Policy, and again, I'm bringing my hair. So bear with me.
I'm sure he's taking care of a little side action.
Oh, come on, Mac.
Why wouldn't he kill her? For that matter, how about Diana? Diana finds out.
Cut it
about
out.
Ciji and-
Mac, it isn't funny anymore.
Exactly right. I'm just trying to point out to you that anybody could have killed her.
But Fallon's the one who's confessing. Oh, Mac, I've got to talk to her. I've got to see her.
She'll probably be home tomorrow.
No, I mean now, while she's still down
Are you
there.
crazy? You gotta be kidding. I can't get you to see her. Nobody can. They're not allowing her to see visitors.
But you're a prop.
Again, the legality versus the morality. Like, he wants to get her down there, and he wants to help out, but he can't do it legally because he's federal. He can't get down there it's not out of his jurisdiction. And again, this is in Constitution Service Policy.
Prosecutor.
They haven't even charged her yet. Yes, I am a prosecutor, an assistant United States attorney, federal. This is state. I have no jurisdiction in a state case.
But you know all those people.
But I can perform miracles. Nobody gets to see Val.
And then she gets to see Val, which is hilarious. And then they end up taking her home. There's not really any other scenes to play from this episode, other than, like I said, when this is the last time that we see Richard until it's not the last time that we hear from Richard, but it's the last time that we see Richard until season 9. And again, I think he was just kind of unraveling, and before he had another nervous breakdown, I think he needed to leave. And I think that he was realizing that maybe, as much as he did love Laura, that maybe, possibly, that wasn't the best relationship for him, and that trying to make her happy was making him having some issues, and he needed to get out. But that's not the way that Laura is thinking about it, but that's my thought. Like, like watching it back, maybe he just thinks that it's just best for everyone and him included if he just kind of gets out of the way for everyone. Um, and then I think that, and again, I say that I love Karen and Max, not Karen and Max, but Karen and Val's friendship. It's very sweet, it's very intention, and it's, she protects her, wants to protect her, and it's almost like, kind of taking her under her wing and just kind of looking out for her. And I think that when Mack married Karen, he kind of got Val as well, kind of like tried to care for her as a sister, or I don't know. Yeah. So, and again, I think it's really important that Gary stay where he is for the moment, just so that he can continue to dry out and get the help that he needs. So that's just my opinion with that. Because we all need a little help sometimes. And again, this is when Gary hit rock bottom. And that's what the show is showing, is that in order for someone to want to get help, they have to hit rock bottom. And this was it. So, now, this is season 4, episode 22, The Willing Victims. Okay, so this is where we start out with the 2 characters and then we end with the same 2 characters. So we see Val is running to run off Steve, and then we go to the beach house and we see that Abby is sitting at the beach house and is kind of frustrated. And I say the camera, but the scene kind of goes from back and forth between Abby and Val. And then we see that Gary is still in jail and he's having a hard time. So again, it starts off with Gary, Val, and Abby, and then it ends with Gary, Val, and Abby. Karen and Mack are talking about Val and Gary with Eric and Michael. And Eric asks Mack if he thinks that Gary did it. And Mack says no, he doesn't think that he did it. And he tells him that, however, Gary is in a lot of trouble. Val is still running and almost gets hit. Jason runs in to show Richard has finished composition. However, Richard is not there. They don't know where Richard is. And then Roy tells him to leave it to her. Lily Mae gives Chip the newspaper to find rooms to rent. And then Val comes in and asks Val if she had a good run, and they ignore him. I think Lily Mae told her that she had asked Chip to leave, however he's still there for whatever reason. Val sees the newspaper that Lily Mae threw out, and there's an article in there about it, about what happened. And asks her to get away from it all. So basically Lily Mae wants to go away with Val, however Val just kind of goes upstairs. Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm ignoring everyone. Casey, so Mitchell, Casey, Abby, and Gary are talking about the preliminary hearing and how they have the burden of proof. How the state has the burden of proof and that he will cross-examine all of the state's witnesses. Gary is one of part of the defense because he's just trying to be a martyr, like basically trying to, he says that he's never not guilty, so he's just trying to take the fall for this because he doesn't know what happened. Janet and Mack are talking about the fact that she does not think that Gary is guilty, and however she does have a case, and she thinks that Mack thinks that Janet thinks that the DA will have to throw it out eventually, and Mack thinks that it's a weak case, and Janet thinks that Gary is dangerous. Karen goes to see Val about going to see Mack, and that she cannot stop her at this point, and Karen makes a joke by saying, "My Mack? You wanna go see Mack? My Mack?" Karen and Lily Mae want to help, however, Val still loves Gary, and she knows that Gary does not love her anymore. However, she knows that Gary did not have anything to do with what happened with Ciji. And she's going to go to Mack to see if there is something that she can do that Abby can't or won't do. Abby, Casey, and Westmont are talking about Gary and how he has given up and that she is afraid to have him come home right now because she's afraid that since he's given up that he's just going to go back to drinking again, and she just doesn't want that. So basically, she wants to kind of get him into an asylum. However, it's not, it won't go out like that. Laura and Ginger are talking about Kenny's new job with Jeff and running the Nashville office. Oh, Laura and Ginger are talking about it. Ginger also gets a contract with the job, and the only bad part is that she's upset is about having to leave the cul-de-sac and getting away from her friends. And then we see that Laura gets a check from the insurance policy, and Richard is nowhere to be found. Laura is impressed with how Richard has been trying so much, and the fact that he was not with her the night before. Val is at Mack's office, and Mack encourages to go see Gary to get through to him. Val tells Mack about when she saw Gary at the apartment and how that went. Val is sure that she can get through to him. She just has to try, but she doesn't know what she's going to say. Abby is at the jail talking to Gary, and that there might be a stipulation to the loan agreement for him to go into the hospital. Val goes to see him, however, upsets Abby and Gary. Ciji goes to talk to Val and tells her that Gary does not want to see her and that she should just leave him alone. Laura gets a call from the restaurant and Richard is not there, and that's when Laura finds out that Richard has not been there all day. And then Laura realizes what really happened when she sees the photo missing that Richard took, and her heart starts beating fast. Laura is convinced now that Richard has something to do with Ciji, and she tells Mack and Karen. Karen is starting to get frustrated with Laura, and this will continue on into the next couple of episodes. And Karen is, and their friendship starts to unravel even more so at this point. So Karen is facing a lot right now. Kenny and Ginger are talking about the new job and how different it will be. This is the last scene of Mass Landing that we see Kenny and Ginger in. And I think that they kind of let them go because there was not a lot more they could really do with their characters. It stinks because Ginger did have a good voice and it would have made a little bit of a storyline. However, with Richard being gone and the restaurant being gone, and then the record company not working out, there's really not a lot that they could have done with the storylines. So it kind of stinks, but I think that since Matt came on the scene, they could easily write stories around him, and it was becoming difficult with Kenny and Ginger, in my opinion. So it was almost like they could get a lot of guest stars and a lot of people guest starring on a more regular basis, as opposed to having like regular cast members that they would have to write stories around. So I think that thinking back, I think that that's why they kind of let them go, just because there's not really a lot there. That's just my opinion. Co-hosts, you can let me know if I'm wrong about that. And then next we see that Val was upset about what happened at the police station, and Lily Mae comes in to talk to her and apologizes, and she is basically becoming a mama bear and wanting to protect her. Val tells her mom that deep love never stops, and that Lily Mae taught her how to love, and Lily Mae tells her that she should have taught her how to stop loving. And Val said, you can't stop that kind of love. It's not gonna, stop for that. Gary is still thinking in jail. Karen and Mack are talking about all of this and the fact that Laura is going to tell Janet, and she wishes that Laura will keep her mouth shut. Mack finally tells being a father. She kind of brought us back to when Karen found out about Mack and kind of said the same thing to him about what she felt to him about that type of behavior. To quote it, she goes, "I will not tolerate this kind of behavior for myself, and my daughter should not have to tolerate it either." So that kind of brought that kind of full circle. This is not a good situation. Max thinks that this case is turning into one of those cases that is too easy, and Janet thinks it is as well. Max says that Richard would have been a prime suspect and probably would have come down to Richard, Abby, or Chip. And I think that that's when, this is why I think that deep down Karen has always thought about Chip being a suspect, because she kind of goes, "Chip? Really?" And then we see Janet and Laura talking, and Janet tells her that she could be wrong about Richard and that they did not have Gary. Richard was a suspect, but there were other suspects as well. Janet tells Laura that Gary will probably not be held over for trial, and that he will be home probably by tomorrow. Chip is washing the car as Diana pulls up and he tells her that he is leaving town soon, and she gave him the $3,000 from her savings account, and he asks if she wants to go through with it, and Diana says, "Sure, it's exciting." And then they talk about going to see her Uncle Joe, and Chip goes, "Well, let's not do that right away. Let's just kind of live our lives, for ourselves right now." So basically, he just kind of wanted to lay low, and I think in my mind, he's afraid that Karen will call Joe and let him know what's going on. That goes to see Jenny about seeing Gary, and she tells her that she can't let her do that. But then she finally does after they talk further. She tells Val that the case is closed and that it is now up to the DA. Val tells Janet that it is wrong and that there's an innocent man sitting in jail for something that he did not do, and that she's trying to get an innocent man to defend himself. So here we go. Karen goes to tell Diana about Chip, and they get into a big fight about Diana leaving with Chip. And then as they're saying this, hold on. Karen wants to make sure that she's doing the right thing. Karen encourages her to go to New York and to stay with Uncle Joe. However, Diana doesn't want to do that. She wants to go with Chip, to be with Chip, because she loves Chip. And then she tells her about Ciji's baby, and they kind of get into a fight. And then I just kind of put this in it where it was almost kind of like you could see the face, you could see her action. It was almost like how when she was in Big Dream, when Miss Lee was in Big Dreams Broken Hearts, where just like she got that frustration whenever she just got this face on her, like you could tell. And I can see why she wanted to tell that story and play that role, because it was very similar in this moment. Let's see something. Lily notices Chip and they say goodbye. He tells her that he and Diana are going to New York, and he does try to apologize. Lily does cry, and she is still hurt by what Chip did. Abby is talking to Jason and Olivia and she goes into an office to work on something or just to kind of get out of the way. Casey is telling Abby that it will probably end tomorrow and that there are too many suspects with two that have a motive and that he will be free tomorrow. Abby calls Westmont and wants Casey fired and wants Westmont to represent Gary instead. So basically, she's just trying to sabotage the case, and I don't know if she's trying to sabotage it for Gary or she's trying to sabotage it for herself. I don't know. Abby goes to talk to Olivia. Then we see that Private Eye comes to Val's and sees Lily and asks about a guy named Dun Dun Dun. Only Luis, however, is actually Dip, and he is wanted in Seattle So basically, Lily Mae thinks that it's Gary that he's looking for. However, it's Lily Tony from News Chip, and she gets a copy of the paper and pulls it up. Gary sees that Val wants to talk to him, and then he wants to get out of the room. So basically, he's in the visiting room, and he doesn't want to talk to her. But then Val kind of forces him to talk to her. He picks up the phone, and Val tells him how he really is when he's drunk. Val tells him that if he had any respect for Ciji, that he would be out there looking for the person who was really involved and not be being a martyr. Karen goes to see Chip, and then Lily Mae tells her about someone looking for him. And then Karen runs home and sees that Diana has gone with them. She took all of her things with her. Abby is still thinking. So basically, we're back to the three. So we see the closing scene is Abby thinking on the beach, and Val is at home thinking about it. And then they both want what's best for Gary, however, they're going about it in different ways. And Gary is thinking about what Val has said to him. I think that's what I'm thinking in my head. So again, we're seeing the two different sides of how Abby's handling this versus how Val wants to handle it, and that's a conflict. So it's kind of like, what I think this show said it on the podcast this week when they had Charlene on where they wanted the Cain and Abel. So it's almost like a version of Cain and Abel, but it's with friends. So you have like Abby and Val trying to play do what's best for Gary, and they're thinking that if they do it this way, then it's best. However, if they do it this way, it's best, and it's becoming difficult. And then the fact that Mack was finally honest about Chip, I think, with Karen, and that's when the relationship between Diana and Karen starts to unravel a little bit. So I think that that's going to be so we'll see that coming up. Because again, she did tell her mother bye. She whispered it, but she didn't really tell her mother bye. She didn't know what I mean. Um, and again, Val was just trying to help Gary. Abby was trying to help Gary. Again, I don't hesitate. I don't think that is what is best for Gary. I think that will hurt Gary. And then again, we'll see that play out in season 5 when we get to that part. We didn't really see a lot of Mack and Karen in this episode. They were very kind of heavy in the last episode. They did talk about who the suspects could be if it wasn't Gary or if it wasn't Gary near the end of the show. And then we did see Val talking to Gary and telling him, and then Lily Mae, and then the chapter kind of sort of closing between how Lily Mae really did see Chip and closing that chapter, and I think that really hurt her. And so she's dealing with her emotions about it. Like, she knows it's the right thing to do, however, it's almost like losing a son. That's how she felt. She thought of him, I think she thought of him as a son. But then I'm glad that she finally opened her eyes. And then, so yeah. There's not really a lot there to analyze, and again, this is the last that we see of Kenny and Ginger, and again, I think that there wasn't enough storylines to kind of wrap around Kenny and Ginger now that the studio was bought, or the record company was bought out, Ciji, all that good stuff. So now let me go see if there's some scenes I can play from this episode. Co-host, anything to add on that? I think I am going to play As you can soon from every episode. Is this soon? Okay. Alright. And again, this is in accordance with YouTube service policy. Sorry if that's busting out your eardrums a little bit, guys.
Do me a favor, let me know. All right, thanks.
So Mack is on the phone with Janice Burns, talking about this. Hold on, it kind of froze up on me. Just give me 1 second. Mack is on the phone talking to Janice Burns about. Hold on in a minute. Again, this is in accordance with YouTube service policy.
Are you ready for this?
What?
Laura's gonna talk to Janet Baines. They have an appointment tomorrow.
How will she keep her mouth shut?
She can't, Karen. You know that.
So again, Karen, no matter what Richard did, Karen doesn't believe that Richard could have done anything to Ciji. That's just my opinion. And I don't think he could have either. I mean, yeah, he did have a nervous breakdown, but I don't think he would have gone to that extreme. Again, this because, as we know, it really wasn't going to hurt Laura last year. Again, this is in accordance with YouTube service policy.
I don't know that. It's one thing to report Richard's missing. It's another thing to charge in there screaming, Richard killed Ciji. Richard killed Ciji. I can't believe it. I can't even
Maybe
say it.
if Laura thinks it's feasible that Richard...
It is not feasible, Dad. I know Richard. He would... Mack.
Again, it's a legality versus a morality for me. And that's just my opinion. Again, this is in accordance with YouTube service policy.
Everything's falling apart. I think it'll make a difference.
What?
Laura talking to Janet.
I don't know. This case has turned into one of those too easy cases that some cops hate.
Too easy cases. So I think that this is true. And, okay. I actually had a cop friend of mine that left us too soon in a similar way. And it was right after we lost my dad. About a year or so after we lost my dad. And he was a big part of my life, our lives. And it was hard for me. And here in Detroit, it's kind of like LA a little bit. With the hustle and bustle of it, because we got music, Motown down here. So it was very difficult, and then they caught the guys, and I saw a family go through this, a mother and a daughter go through this. The daughter was just a baby when it happened, so she never knew her dad growing up. And I think that that's really sad, and the fact that, he left this world too soon is very difficult on people around him, and the manner in which they left. There's no rhyme reason for it, and we're seeing this more and more in today's world. There's a trial going on right now in Massachusetts. There's another trial starting in Florida with a similar situation. So I just think that, what is this world coming to? It's like we're just seeing more and more of this happening. And again, like I said yesterday, I think it's because of the bid and the pandemic, I don't know. What is this world coming to? And again, this is in accordance with future service policy.
How does Janet feel about it? Does she think it's too easy?
I think so. With Gary's arrest, Him not willing to defend himself. Takes the energy right out of the investigation.
And again, that's what I said, Gary just doesn't want to defend himself because he thinks that he's guilty no matter what, because he was drunk, he couldn't save her. I think that's really what the issue is because he can't remember, he was so drunk, he can't remember what happened, and so he thinks that he did it, and so therefore he's trying to clear his conscience about being drunk. That's just my opinion.
Ordinarily,
And again, this constitutes very false.
to be a prime suspect. Without Gary in jail, it probably would have come down to Richard, Abby, your friend and mine, Chip. Once they had Gary, the investigation fits.
Chip? Wait a minute, why Chip? Why would Chip be a prime suspect?
Again, I think that deep down, Karen had always thought that Chip was a prime suspect at this point, and therefore she was surprised. However, she had that gut feeling. I had that gut feeling because, and I know she probably did. Again, this constitutes very false.
He was more than her manager.
You don't know that.
Yeah, I do.
What?
He was sleeping with Ciji.
How do you know about it?
It was in the police report. He had to have a blood test because of the baby.
Weren't you going to tell me?
During the investigation.
So Mack, again, the legality versus the morality. It's like, she was going to tell her, however, he didn't want to interfere with the investigation and call it to pick up for her, and then have her go tell Diana, and then have Chip run off, which basically is what's happening anyways. Again, this is constitutes very policy.
I wasn't going to rock the boat.
I won't tolerate that kind of behavior for myself. My daughter shouldn't have to tolerate it either.
Yeah, it is. I'm just I don't want to do the fight because that kind of gets a little sticky. Alright. So again, Diana and Karen are gonna kind of have some issues, and now Karen is just worried about Diana. Doesn't, is worried about both of them, about what's happening with Diana and Chip, and the fact that, now there's stuff going on, and this is just gonna cause a whole big hoopla. And again, mothers and daughters living together after a certain age is kind of difficult. So I think that, Diana should have went away to school, even if it was local, live on campus. Diana, why wasn't she in college? That's interesting. She should have been in college, but that's just my opinion. I went away, about 45 minutes away, to my undergrad. So therefore, I think I'm healthy for Diana. And then I came back, and it was a little bit difficult to come back to because, again, there were some other circumstances that were going on at that time, and I kind of felt held back, and then I had to do my practicum. Like, I walked, and then I got my degree, but I had to do my practicum down here instead of at Rochester because there was no no way for me to do it after I graduated from my undergrad. So that was a little bit difficult, but then things kind of sort of worked out. I got a job, I went for the master's, and poof, things worked out for the most part for a couple of years. so, um, so that's the end of season 4. Again, we said goodbye to Kenny and Ginger. We said goodbye to Richard. And again, I don't think that some of the scenes and some of the actor storylines kind of came full circle, which I think is beautiful and wonderful. And some of the lines kind of came full circle back around. However, we're just beginning new storylines, and we're about to end the Gary storyline. Will be ending in the first episode of season 5. But then the new storyline of Karen and Diana having some issues are starting. And now I'm on season 7, where I think Olivia and Abby are going to be having issues coming up. So I'm kind of like 2 seasons ahead. What's the party for? The end of season 4, yeah. The end of season 4. And there's going to be a little bit more to analyze. And then we have Greg Sumner coming into the season. And there's going to be a lot more to, I think, analyze once we get into season 5. So, end of season 4. And we have Greg Sumner coming in. William Devane, which is going to be very colorful and bring a cast of colorful people with them. So, that's going to be a wild, wild ride, co-host. It's going to be a wild, wild ride. Alright, I don't know about y'all, but I'm tired. My jaw is hurting, my back is hurting, my head is hurting. So I'm going to end it here. Again, don't forget that the We're Not Done Yet podcast will be linked down below. Yes, William Devane is a good actor. And they did talk about him doing on the podcast, and they did ask him to be on the podcast, but he doesn't want to. So that's okay. Some of the actors don't want to be on the podcast. They're just kind of somewhat retired and oh yeah. So they did ask, and they even have asked Joan Collins to come on the podcast, and she said no. She said that she doesn't want to do it because she's been asked to do podcasts, and she says that she comes on their podcast and other people would be upset. So it's just a matter that they just don't want to do it, and they're okay with it. So they're kind of getting the actors and people that they want to be on the podcast. So it's just kind of interesting about all that. So they have asked for certain people, but they're just saying no, and they just don't want to do it, and so they don't push. Like I think they've asked Ted Shackelfeld to come on, and we said no. However, I think he did a tribute to Miss Van Ark for her birthday. I think they did it because they did a tribute video for her. And again, I do want to say to Miss Van Ark, I hope you are feeling better and that you come back to the podcast soon. We miss you. Um, um, let's see. I think that's it. So, don't forget to do the YouTube things, like, share, subscribe, comment down below, turn on the bell notification. Don't forget that the We're Not Done Yet podcast will be linked below. They release episodes every Tuesdays, and on those Tuesdays, when I do the live, I link those episodes. And I will also link the Ciji Circle YouTube channel as well as the No Escape from the Cul-de-Sac podcast and my playlist for these episodes. So therefore, I hope you all have a great night, enjoy the weekend, and I look forward to y'all joining me over the weekend as we start season 5. And yeah, I think that's it. Unless, yeah. All right. I hope you guys have a great night. Bye.